Now, the last thing we want to do is we want to find out, well, what is the total weight of option 1, the total weight of option 2? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to row 9, column J, and I'm going to type in the word total weight. And I'm going to go next to it, and I'm going to type in, I'm going to put meets. No, I'm going to put less than 110.3 kilograms with a question mark. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to use the Excel to calculate the total weight for all 24 options, and then use Excel to let us know whether or not it meets the weight restriction of 110.3 kilograms. So what we're going to do is we're going to use some formulas in Excel. Now, you can go up to the top and it's going to list you a bunch of formulas, but for today, I'm just going to tell you we're going to use 2. And there's a lot of ways to find out what other formulas are available. I can tell you almost any kind of formula you can think of is probably capable of, mathematical formula is capable of using in Excel. So the first one we're going to do is sum. Okay, so sum is we're going to add up some things. Whenever you're going to use a formula, I'm first of all going to highlight cell row 10 J. You must always start with an equal sign. So I'm going to put an equal sign. Our formula or function actually is called sum, S-U-M, and then you're going to put a begin parentheses. Now you'll notice underneath there, it says sum parentheses number 1, comma, number 2, comma, XXX. So what it's saying is, I want to add up whatever you say is number 1 and 2. And by number 1, you could put in a number if you want, or we want to put in the number of the weight of the camera, comma, the weight of the data recorder, comma, the weight of the transmitter. So again, I'm going to show you 2 ways to do this. The first way is all you do is go over to the first number and you click, then put a comma. I'm going to go to the weight of the data recorder in comma, and and then the weight of this. Technically, you need to end the parentheses, but what it's saying is find the sum of whatever number is in B10, E10, and H10. And if you change those numbers, it would change the sum. So I can either end the parentheses or just hit enter. So I'm going to hit enter, and says those 3 add up to 78.1. Now I'm going to show you the second way you could do this, and is I'm going to do equal sum, begin parentheses. I could actually highlight all the numbers between A and H, and you might say, well, how's it going to add up A, P, and W? Well, it's going to ignore those because it's going to say those are letters, so I don't add up letters. So I'm going to hit enter, and notice it came up with the same number. So as long as you didn't have numbers in those other columns, you can highlight all of those. Now, what's most important here is we can now copy and paste this formula. So I'm going to right click and do copy just to show you that's what I'm copying. I'm now going to highlight all the spaces below that for all the other 23 options and hit enter. And notice it's now calculated the total weight for all of those. And you might say, well, how the heck did that work? Well, what it did, notice this said it was for B10, E10, H10. So column B, row 10, column E, row 10, column H, row 10. If I go down, it says, okay, if I move down a row, what I'm going to, I'm going to move down a row. So now it's B11, E11, H11, and so on and so forth. I'll let you know, sometimes that can get tricky if you, I'm just saying you got to be careful when what you do that and double check. But notice how easy it was to figure out the total weights of all those. Now, in this case with 24, I could go down the list and say, okay, which ones are greater than 110.3? Okay, if I come down here, I'm just going to highlight, show you. Okay, there's one. Okay, the 2, 3, 4. There's 4 more of them. Okay, and those 4. So there are 9 of these that don't meet the weight requirement. But if I had 1,000 of these, I don't really want to go through all of those. And remember, not only do we have weight, but sometimes we have budget requirements too. So what I want to do is I want to use an Excel formula to figure out, is it less than 110.3? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the function. This is called an if function. So remember, if you use a function, you got to start with equal. I need to type in if parentheses, and notice it says if logical test column, value of true, comma, value of false. What this means is I'm going to do some kind of test. And the test in this case I'm going to do is I'm going to say, is the number under total weight less than 110.3? Okay, so I'm going to highlight here. It says take that value. I'm going to do less than 110.3 comma. So the logical test is the total weight less than 110.3? Now it says put something in here if the value is true. What you put in there could be a number, a word, you can choose. But if it's going to be a word, you have to put it in parentheses. So I'm going to say if it's less than 110.3, parentheses YES. And then it says, what if the value is false? Well, if it's false, I want to type in no. So I'm going to parentheses NO. And I'm going to hit enter. And notice it says yes. Just like we did with the total weight, I'm going to copy. I'm going to highlight all the way down. To paste it, I just hit enter. And lo and behold, no. These 4, no. These 4, no. So in other words, I didn't have to double check visually. It's just calculated. I will point out when you go through this process, you want to make sure that you double check that everything works correctly, or at least on a small group of numbers. So in this case, of the 24 possible options, 15 met the weight restrictions and 9 did not. Okay, hopefully this helped you teach you some of the basics of how to use Excel. In my opinion, it's a very helpful software to use in StellarXplorers.